You all remember the Serum Bowl. It's probably the single most divisive, most agonizing what-if in the entire Attack on Titan fandom. The brilliant Commander Erwin Smith or the budding strategist Armin. Levi had one syringe and two dying comrades. He made his choice. And for years, the fandom blew up. Armin was useless. Erwin would have solved everything. Levi let his emotions choose. But what if I told you that Levi's choice, that heartbreaking, brutal decision, was the single most important thing that happened in the entire series? What if I told you that by letting Erwin Smith die, Levi didn't just doom Paradis, he saved it from a timeline far darker than anything Eren could dream up?
Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about who was nicer. This isn't even about who was smarter. The debate has always been who was more useful. But that's the wrong question. Here's my thesis. The survival of Erwin Smith would have been an unmitigated disaster for Paradis Island. We, the audience, look at Erwin as this messianic figure, the ultimate leader who sacrificed it all. But we're wrong. His death wasn't the story's greatest tragedy. It was a necessary, painful release. By letting Erwin die, Levi wasn't just letting a demon rest. He was accidentally preserving the one thing Erwin would have crushed in his pursuit of victory: hope. In the darkest timeline where Erwin gets the serum, Paradis doesn't get a savior. It gets its first and most effective dictator.
To understand this, you have to understand who Erwin actually was, not who we wanted him to be.
Point 1. The demon needs a new war. What does a man do when his life's only purpose is achieved? Think about Erwin's entire motivation. It was singular. It wasn't save humanity, not really. His entire life was a desperate, obsessive crusade to prove his father's theory, to get to the basement. In Shiganshina, before the final charge, he confessed this to Levi. He admitted that all the sacrifices, all the speeches, all the fallen comrades were stepping stones on his personal, selfish quest. Now, imagine he survives. He gets the serum, he heals, he finds out what's in the basement. Check. His life's work is done. So what happens next? Does a man like Erwin Smith, a man defined by advancing and sacrificing, just retire? Does he become a diplomat? Does he listen to Armin's naive ideas about talking to the outside world? No! A demon needs a demon to fight. Erwin is a gambler who just won the biggest bet of his life. He's not going to walk away from the table. He's going to find a bigger, more dangerous game. And that game is now the world. He would have looked at the global coalition forming against Paradis and seen only one solution: war. He is a master of conflict, not a master of peace.
Point 2. The pragmatism of the 50-year plan.
Erwin Smith would have agreed with Zeke. Let's be real. When the volunteers from Marley arrived and Zeke's 50-year plan was proposed, who in the room do you think would have been the first to accept its cold, brutal logic? Not Hanjay, who was horrified, not Armin, who looked for alternatives. It would have been Erwin. Let's break down the plan. 1. Maintain the rumbling as a nuclear deterrent. 2. Use a small-scale rumbling to destroy the world's allied fleets as a show of force. 3. Have the royal-blooded Titan, Historia, produce as many heirs as possible over the next 50 years to keep the Founder's power active. This is a plan built on sacrifice and deterrence. It's a 100% military-first solution. Turning Historia into a royal broodmare, Erwin, who sacrificed hundreds of his own soldiers in a suicide charge, wouldn't have blinked. He would have called it a necessary sacrifice. Using a small-scale rumbling to kill hundreds of thousands, he'd call it securing the future of Paradis. Erwin Smith is the definition of cold pragmatism. He would have allied with Zeke, not out of trust, but out of logic. He would have seized control of the founder from Eren, who he would see as unstable, and handed it to Historia, locking Paradis into a 50-year-long Cold War, forever hated, forever isolated, and forever living under the shadow of its own demons.
Point 3. The rise of the Erwinist state.
Flock is just Erwin light, and Erwin wouldn't have failed. Why do you think the Jaegerist faction even happened? Because Flock, in his twisted way, was trying to fill the vacuum of leadership left by Erwin. He was trying to be the demon that Paradis needed. If Erwin had lived, there would be no Jaegerist faction, because Erwin would lead it. He wouldn't be a follower of Eren. Eren would be a weapon in Erwin's arsenal. Erwin would have consolidated power so fast it would make your head spin. He wouldn't just be the commander of the Survey Corps. He'd be the de facto leader of the entire island. He would have turned the island into a modern-day Sparta, a brutal, efficient, fascist state built for one purpose: to wage a 50-year war. Every resource, every citizen, every child would be conscripted into his grand strategy. There would be no debate, no "let's try diplomacy," no Hanshe agonizing over the moral cost. Erwin already knew the cost and had decided long ago that he was willing to pay it.
Now I know what you're thinking. You're wrong. Erwin was a genius. He would have found a third way, a better solution that no one else saw. Would he? Or was his genius entirely focused on war? This is the man whose final, greatest plan was to lead a cavalry charge, a suicide charge, against a giant screaming ape throwing boulders. It was a brilliant tactic to buy time, but it was also a gamble of total annihilation. Erwin doesn't find third ways. He finds a way. He identifies the goal, calculates the acceptable human cost, which is always higher than anyone else is comfortable with, and he executes. He admitted it himself. He is a master con man, sacrificing his comrades for his own dream. Do you really think that man, empowered with the full knowledge of the outside world, would suddenly become a peace-loving diplomat? He wouldn't. He would have become the devil of Paradis that the world always feared.
At the end of the day, the Serum Bowl wasn't a choice between a genius and a dreamer. It was a choice between two futures. Erwin represented a future of victory through absolute control. A future defined by war, deterrence, and sacrifice. A future where Paradis survives, but perhaps doesn't deserve to. Armin, for all his flaws, represented a chance. A slim, naive, maybe even foolish chance. For something else. For understanding. For hope. Paradis didn't need a better soldier to win the next war. It needed someone, anyone, to find a way to end the cycle. Erwin was the cycle. Armin was the potential break. That's my take. Erwin's death was tragic, but his survival would have been a catastrophe. But I want to know what you think. Is this the darkest timeline, or am I wrong? Would Commander Erwin have been Paradis's salvation or its final damnation? Drop your theory in the comments.
Think about it. Levi's choice wasn't about letting his commander rest. It wasn't an act of mercy. It was a strategic choice, whether he knew it or not. He didn't choose between two friends. He chose between two worlds. One ruled by an efficient, necessary, and all-consuming demon, and one that still had Armin Arlert in it. He let his demon go, and in doing so, he gave the world one last desperate chance at peace.